Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're uncovering the awe-inspiring biology, the wildly complex social lives, and the really urgent conservation threats facing dolphins right now. You know, when we look out at the ocean, it's so easy to just see this vast, empty expanse of blue. But right beneath the surface is a society of incredibly intelligent creatures that honestly share way more in common with us than you might think. So, we're going to explore what makes them so unique, how we as humans have both partnered with and harmed them, and what absolutely needs to happen next to ensure their survival.
So let's start with the most basic question. Are dolphins actually fish? I mean, looking at their streamlined, torpedo-shaped bodies just slicing through the water, it is super easy to assume they are. They live their entire lives in the ocean, after all. But the truth is entirely different, and it's rooted deep in their evolutionary history. Millions of years ago, their ancestors actually walked on land. And looking at their biology brilliantly illustrates their true nature. Dolphins are absolutely not fish. They are warm-blooded mammals. Unlike fish that pull oxygen right out of the water using gills, dolphins have to consciously breathe air using their lungs. They make these frequent trips to the surface using that blowhole on top of their head, basically like a highly specialized nose. Plus, they don't lay eggs. They give birth to live young and nurse their calves with milk. Oh, and here is a mind-blowing fact. Like all mammals, dolphins actually have a tiny amount of hair. When they're born, they have these small hairs right around their rostrum, or a snout, which they eventually lose. It is a far cry from the scales of a fish.
Section 1. Sleeping with half a brain. The unique neurophysiology of dolphin rest.
Now think about this for a second. If they have to consciously breathe air, you might be wondering how on earth they manage to sleep underwater without drowning. Well, the answer is unihemispheric sleep. This is an absolutely incredible evolutionary adaptation. Basically, dolphins have the ability to literally shut down one half of their brain at a time. They enter this deep, slow-wave sleep in one hemisphere, while the other hemisphere stays awake and fully alert. It's basically a biological superpower that keeps them alive in a marine environment that never stops moving.
And the way this actually manifests physically is fascinating. While one half of the brain is catching some Z's, the opposite eye stays completely closed. So if the right hemisphere is resting, the left eye is shut. But that awake half of the brain, it's working overtime. It keeps them swimming, ensures they reach the surface to take a breath, and keeps them actively scanning the water for predators like sharks. They are essentially resting while on high alert.
And just how effective is this trick? Well, get this. Researchers have found that because of this specific neurophysiology, dolphins can remain constantly alert, actively using their echolocation to monitor their environment for at least 15 straight days. And they do it without showing a single sign of fatigue. Imagine staying awake for over 2 weeks, performing super complex tasks with near-perfect accuracy just by resting half of your mind at a time.
Section 2. Complex minds and social bonds inside the fission-fusion societies of the sea. So all that immense brain power builds incredibly tight yet fluid communities. Dolphins don't just swim around randomly. They form these complex social networks that can merge into massive superpods of over 1,000 individuals, and then they just break apart again based on food availability or social needs. Within these fluid societies, their high intelligence breeds profound empathy. They've literally been documented physically supporting injured or ill pod mates at the surface just so they can breathe. They're also famous for circling and protecting human swimmers from approaching sharks. Down in New Zealand, a wild dolphin named Moko even guided a stranded pygmy sperm whale and her calf back to the safety of deep water. And when it comes to feeding, they are strategic masterminds, teaming up to herd massive schools of fish into tightly packed bait balls for an easy meal.
Section 3. The complex human relationship. From cooperative fishing to captivity and hunting.
But when we zoom out and look at our own relationship with these non-human persons, it becomes a pretty jarring story of extremes. How we interact with these highly intelligent creatures ranges from beautiful symbiosis to, well, absolute tragedy. On the one hand, we see stunning cooperation. Down in Laguna, Brazil, wild dolphins actively herd fish right toward fishermen standing in the shallow water. The dolphins then physically signal the men exactly when to cast their nets. It's this incredible interspecies partnership spanning generations. But conversely, we also take these expansive, highly social creatures and put them in captivity for entertainment. In those concrete tanks, captivity causes severe stress, significantly reduced lifespans, and physical pathologies like dorsal fin collapse, which actually affects up to 90% of captive male orcas.
And the crucial takeaway here is that this extreme stress in captive isolation isn't just sad, it can be fatal. This was most starkly seen in the tragic case of the captive orca Tilikum. Stripped of his natural environment and a normal social structure, the immense stress of captivity led to highly aggressive behaviors, and Tilikum was ultimately involved in the deaths of 3 human beings. It's a really grim reminder that these are powerful, wildly intelligent predators, not just performers.
Out in the wild, things can turn pretty dark too, specifically when we look at drive hunting. This is a practice where whole pods of dolphins are herded together by boats, driven into shallow bays, and completely sealed off with nets so there is no escape. Then they're slaughtered for meat. This happens out in the open in places like Taiji, Japan, and the Faroe Islands. It's also done illegally in Peru, where the meat is locally called chancho marino, which translates to sea pork.
And the fallout from this hunt circles right back around to human health. Just look at this data from the Peruvian fishing village of San Jose. It is alarming. Nearly half of the surveyed population consumes this illegal meat. But here's the problem. Dolphins are apex predators. They accumulate incredibly high levels of heavy metals, persistent organic pollutants, and PCBs in their blubber. Because of this, a stunning 33% of those interviewed were diagnosed with diabetes. That's a massive public health crisis directly linked to eating this contaminated meat.
Section 4. The Urgent Conservation Crisis. The hidden threat decimating cetacean populations.
Now, while those drive hunts are definitely shocking and get a ton of media attention, the absolute biggest threat to dolphins globally is actually much more pervasive, industrial, and largely accidental. It's called bycatch. See, modern commercial fishing operations drop thousands of miles of extremely strong, practically invisible nets and lines into the ocean every single day. And yeah, those gears are highly efficient, but they are entirely unselective. They haul up their target fish, but they also indiscriminately sweep up whatever marine mammals happen to be swimming by, leaving them to drown.
The scale of this issue is honestly hard to wrap your head around. The World Wildlife Fund estimates that over 300,000 whales, dolphins, and porpoises die from entanglement in fishing nets every single year. It is literally pushing certain species, like the Vaquita down in Mexico and the Maui dolphin over in New Zealand, right to the absolute brink of extinction.
But hey, it's not totally hopeless. To combat this massive crisis, conservationists and fisheries are actually teaming up to implement some proven solutions. They're attaching acoustic pingers to the nets. These are little devices that send out a sound to actively warn dolphins away from the danger zone. They're also using onboard cameras and electronic logbooks to accurately monitor exactly what's being pulled out of the water. And crucially, they're training fishing captains all over the world in safe handling techniques so they can untangle whales and dolphins and get them safely back into the sea.
When you step back and reflect on all these incredible evolutionary marvels, from that unihemispheric sleep to their profound empathy, complex communication, and deep social bonds, a real ethical shift is finally starting to take hold. Currently, 4 countries, Chile, Costa Rica, Hungary, and India, have officially taken the stance that the sheer intelligence of these creatures demands an entirely new legal status, the non-human person. They've recognized that it's just morally unacceptable to keep these brilliant creatures captive for our amusement.
So, I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder. Given the astounding complexity of their minds, those incredible fluid societies they build, and the urgent 300,000 death toll they face every single year from commercial fishing nets, if 4 countries already recognize dolphins as non-human persons, isn't it time the rest of the world stepped up? Isn't it time we universally rethink how we treat them and finally protect them from the devastating threat of bycatch? Thanks for joining me in this explainer, and let's keep learning together.
Dive deeper into the hidden secrets that shape our reality. Click the subscribe button, activate the bell, and see you in the next scientific investigation, only on TEMBODocs.